Southern Hemisphere Team of the Year, folks, plus Japan. I've chucked in Japan with my Southern Hemisphere Team of the Year. Doing a Southern team, doing a Northern team. Japan, they've played in Super Rugby before, so I'm going to claim them for this year. It kind of balances things out if I'm using Japan in the South. So give me that one, folks. But yeah, I've gamified this year's Team of the Year a little bit by giving myself some kind of rules that I have to pick by. We'll go through those and then we'll kind of go through each of the 15 players that I have picked. Now, to stop myself from pretty much picking largely teams from only 2 or 3 countries, with the odd kind of exception, I've set out a very specific structure by which I'm going to pick these players. So I'm going to pick teams from the top teams from the Southern Hemisphere. And I'm going to pick more players from the top teams, but not past a certain number. So, for example, South Africa is the top ranked team in the world and the top ranked team in the Southern Hemisphere. So I'm going to pick 4 players from South Africa, and I have to include at least one back and 1 forward. So I can't just pick like 4 forwards. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to pick 3 guys from New Zealand because they're the second ranked team in the Southern Hemisphere and overall. And again, I have to include at least 1 back, 1 forward. Australia, I'm going to pick 2. Argentina, I'm going to pick 2. Japan, I'm going to pick 2. Fiji, I'm going to pick 1. And Samoa, I'm going to pick 1. So that makes 15 guys. And again, I can't just pick 2 backs or 2 forwards. It has to be a split if I'm going with multiple of at least 1 and then the rest. So, yeah. Also, I have to pick players that played this year. So I can't pick Semi Radradra because, for example, I don't think he played for Fiji at all this year. So there you go. That's kind of the rules I'm going by. Have a try at home. It's a bit of fun. We'll start with the front row. Important place to start, as always. Loosehead prop. I did go with a South African. It's kind of just what you do when you're picking front rowers these days because their scrum's been impeccable all year. You got so many guys to choose from. I went with Kitsoff. He's been probably my favourite loosehead prop for a couple of years now. He does it all, basically. He scrummages well, which is the key characteristic you need from any prop, but also he can break down turnovers, he can tackle, he can carry a wee bit. Does his core role stuff pretty well. So Stephen Kitsoff, got to have him in this. It's one of my South Africans done. 3 to go for them. Hooker, I went with a non-South African. They've got a couple of good hookers as well, to be fair. But I went with Julian Montoya from Argentina because I've got to pick 2 Argentinians. Argentina didn't have their best year. So I've gone with Montoya because he did still have a phenomenal year despite playing on a side, internationally anyway, that was having a pretty hard time of it. It helps for his individual cause that he plays like 70 plus minutes every game. So if you're looking for guys who make the most tackles without dividing it by the amount of minutes they played, he's always up there. Now, to be fair, if you divided it by the minutes he played, he would still be really high because he's got a huge work rate, gets through tons of tackles, gets tons of turnovers, and the line-out throwing and stuff, his core role, scrummaging, also pretty bloody solid. But, yeah, he's looked pretty outstanding on a side which has been pretty lackluster in 2021. And tight head prop, interestingly, I have managed to squeak in my Samoan pick there. I've only got 1 Samoan to pick, and if you're going to pick a Samoan player, you may as well pick one of the best players in their squad, especially in 2021. I mean, the fact that the 2 clubs this guy plays for in recent years, I'm not sure if he played for anybody in Australia, but he spent a number of years at the Crusaders, winning Super Rugby titles, and then when he left them, he goes to play for Leinster. So he swapped Powerhouse South for Powerhouse North. Very, very good player. He probably could have been an All Black or a Wallaby easily, maybe. Maybe he was the kind of wrong timing for the All Blacks. But yeah, just very, very good scrummager. Maybe not as flashy as some of the other props that are out there. But, I mean, core role is as solid as a rock. So, yeah. Michael Alatoa is my Samoan picks. There you go. 1 Bok, 1 Puma, and 1 Samoan player out of the way. So no more Samoans. I've still got a Pumas back and 3 more Springboks to go. But next is an All Blacks pick. I've gone with Sam Whitelock in the second row. Now, compared to my other lock that I've picked, I don't think he's quite had as big a year, but I still think he looks good. And New Zealand look a better team when he's playing. His carrying, maybe sometimes they rely on him a bit too much to carry. He doesn't kind of get the go-forward ball we would like. Maybe that's kind of a tactical thing that I would like to see them shift a wee bit. But in terms of his work rate around the park, making tackles, winning line-out ball, and just being an experienced leader figure in that All Black squad, I think he's a pretty valuable one. Maybe didn't have his best games on the Northern Tour, but not many of the All Blacks guys did. But to be fair, over the year, I think he's still looked the business, even though he is coming towards the tail end of his career, I guess. But yeah, he's looked pretty good. Now, one guy who's looked exceptionally good is Big Eben Etzebeth. Big Eben across the year has been pretty consistently just, I don't know, one of the best locks in the world, hasn't he? Big physical presence, been making his big hits. Jumps when he needs to, depending on kind of what role they've got going with. I did remember running stats on him in the Rugby Championship, and he dropped a bit too much ball. And I know the guy's got pretty high standards of himself, and if there's like a kind of thing like Sam Whitelock with the carrying ineffectually, if there's one thing Eben, I guess, would like to work on from 2021 is just a wee bit of the old ball handling. There's always room for improvement, right? But I mean, yeah, big physical Eben, making people's lives miserable since how long? Continued to do pretty bloody well in 2021. So that's your type 5. We've got 3 forwards to go, then we'll jump into the back. So blindside flanker, I kind of did a World Rugby, and I shoved Sio Kolisi in there. I was kind of umming and ahhing about who to have there, so I ended up with Kolisi. Now, he did play open side, but as many people have noted, like, jersey numbers are kind of worth what you want to make them worth these days, because guys will literally swap roles in the middle of the game, and he's not like a traditional open side. He's a big physical carrier, hits rucks very hard, more so than kind of looking for a pilfer like you might think from a traditional open side. But man, Salisi had a pretty immense year, didn't he? As I said, very physical. I mean, that sounds like a kind of throwaway remark, but it's not. Like, you know when that guy's hit a ruck, more so than a lot of other guys. He's quite able to move bodies, and he's got a huge work rate. Just keeps going. He played so many minutes, it was ridiculous. Like, he was just very, very consistent for the Springboks. So, yeah, happy to see him there. Open side, I went with my first of 2 Aussies, and I couldn't really look too far past Michael Hooper. He is a bit more of a traditional open side, isn't he? Maybe he doesn't have quite the turnover skills of David Pocock, but he's got better knees than that guy, so he's got a better running game. Just ever present. And I remember when the Wallabies were kind of under the cosh a bit and not having their best results against the All Blacks earlier on in the year, he still looked really good. And often that's the sign of a really classy player. It was when the team isn't looking that flash, they are still able to look world class. So I think Michael Hooper is that guy. Happy to have him in the squad at 7. And then number 8, because I got to pick 2 Japanese players. He is not only that, I mean, he's just a very good number 8, but Kazuki Himeno. I mean, he's not there as a token pick. That guy is brilliant. If you saw him in Super Rugby Aotearoa this year, he didn't look out of place whatsoever. He's looked phenomenal at the World Cup, so I think most of the world knows what this guy's all about by now. Another one who's a big physical ball carrier and also pretty useful to break down for a number 8. He line-out jumps as well. Like, it's one thing I kind of don't like about that back row is there's not like a kind of known line-out jumper, but Himeno jumps enough that if you were to legit pick that team, he would be a genuine kind of third option because they'll lift him every now and then. If Leach is playing, they tend to go with Leach, but if he's not, often they'll pick Himeno as their back row to do the jumping. So, yeah, pretty happy to have him there as well. So there you go. That's your forward pack. A couple of South Africans, 3 South Africans, a All Black. The fact that I've only got 1 All Black there maybe speaks a little bit to some of their struggles this year as their kind of inability to dominate up front. An Argentinian, a Japanese player, a Samoan player there. So, yeah, nice start, I reckon. Into the backs, halfback, I went with Aaron Smith. It's a weird one with the New Zealand halfbacks because they rotated so much that it was kind of hard to see anybody get a bunch of games together. But Smith still looks, I think, the best All Blacks halfback. He's still got one of the best passes in the world. If we're talking non-international stuff, at times he was really driving his pack around the field as well. The Highlanders did pretty solid. And he's just the guy who elevates the players around him. So, yeah, I still think he is one of the best nines in the world, even if it was another nine that got World Player of the Year. Smith disrupted again because he had a baby, so congratulations to him for that. But I mean, he took a bit of time off for his season. So, yep, Aaron Smith there at 9. 10 was a bit of a struggle because which Southern Hemisphere 10 has like legit been outstanding all year? It's tough. Like Pollard has not been in his finest form. I think he's not quite. I mean, he's come back from a long injury. He's been a wee bit inconsistent. Richie Mo'unga, I don't think has kind of set the same, like, been able to hit those same levels as he does with the Crusaders at international level. Like Bodie, I think, has been solid without being spectacular. Nico Sanchez and I keep thinking Concilieri. It's not Concilieri. The Argentinian guy, the winger who plays 10. It's just totally slipped my mind. But you know the guy I mean. You'll let me know in the comments. Carreras. Yeah, they've kind of been rotating a wee bit. So I went with Quade Cooper. He didn't play that many games. But when he did play, the Wallabies looked pretty solid. He seems to be a bit of a calming influence, makes the right decisions, gets try assists, kicks the goals when he needed to. So, yeah, I think Quade had a pretty bloody good return to the Wallabies jersey. So I'll put him there at 10. Kind of wish we'd gotten to see a bit more of him. But them's the breaks. Midfields, I've still got one Springbok left, so I went with Damien De Allende. I was going to go with his midfield partner, but I've ended up putting a Fijian in the 13 jersey. So, yeah, it's kind of picking on the balance of things. I mean, you pick De Allende, you pick you kind of got a win-win situation there because they've been one of the more consistent midfield combos, and he's been really good at Munster as well, doing his big ball carrying thing that you're kind of used to. Again, big physical presence. It's almost like having another loose forward on the pitch at times when he gets getting involved and stuff. Makes his tackles when he needs to. It's just, I mean, what else can you say? Him and are quite the bloody combo. I mentioned a Fijian, as I said. I can't pick Radradra because he didn't really play for Fiji this year. But you're not missing too much when you go with Nayatha Level there at 13. He played a fair few games for Fiji this year and just looks blockbustingly dangerous. You don't want to see that guy lining up against you when he is playing. He is, I don't know, man. He's big, he's fast, he's got good hands, he can offload. Like, he is the stereotypical big Fijian back. So, I mean, he's not a winger. Maybe the typical Fijian stereotype is winger, but nah, man, this guy is the business. He's a very good reason to watch Fijian rugby if you haven't seen enough of their games. Watch this guy. He's going to make the whatever price you pay to watch the game, he's probably going to help make it worth it. So there you go. That's your Fijian pick. We've got our 4 Springboks out of the way. We've got our 2 Wallabies out the way. We've still got a Japanese player, a Argentinian player, and an All Black to go in the back 3. So for the left wing, I ended up going with Emiliano Boffelli. It was tough for the Pumas this year because the backs didn't get a lot of ball. Yeah, so it's tough. I mean, Boffelli, from what limited amount we saw him, he still looks dangerous. His goal kicking, when he's asked to be the primary goal kicker, I don't think is quite there. He's the big cannon boot guy who you want to take the shots from 50 plus. That, I think, should be his role. He's probably not the guy who should be kicking every goal because he's not really consistent enough. But he's good under the high ball and he can beat defenders. So he's quick. I just wish he'd gotten a bit more ball. When the Hawaras used to give him the ball back in the day, he was electric. And for a season or 2 with the Pumas, also very dangerous. Like they had a back 3 of like Mojano, Boffelli, and who was the other one? But anyway, they were electric. They were like just fantastic, but they don't get the ball. So it's kind of hard, but I still think he looks very good. Initially, I had a kind of setup where I had Mapimpi on the left wing, but then I had to kind of rejig things to make sure I got players from each country. So there you go. I ended up with Boffelli. Didn't get as much ball as Mapimpi, but I think if he'd gotten a bit more, we would have seen a bit more from him. But that being said, from what limited he got, I still think he put in a shift. Right wing, I have gone with Kotaro Matsushima from Japan. Japan didn't play a heck of a lot of games this year, and he still looks pretty good. I don't know if he looks kind of 2019 good. He's been over in France, and I've seen him a few times playing for Clermont, and he looks the business. Yeah, I probably haven't seen enough of him to kind of really rave about him, but I still think he's one of the better players in that Japanese squad. And he's another one his footwork's just deadly. So give him the ball. I mean, they had the other winger who was kind of the big unit out on the other wing, whose name is also going to escape me. But yeah, for a kind of elusive winger compared to, I mean, Boffelli's pretty big, so put a smaller guy on the right wing. I think that kind of makes sense. That could be a nice combo. Last but not least, fullback. I have gone with my final All Black and Jordie Barrett. He genuinely did look pretty outstanding this year. Like going into this All Black season, there was a genuine debate about who is the All Blacks' best fullback. Should it be Damian McKenzie? Should it be Will Jordan? Or should it be Jordie Barrett? And I don't think that conversation is really that relevant anymore. Jordie Barrett, under the high ball, was pretty phenomenal. I mean, not perfect, like everybody. Like I mentioned, Eben has not had a perfect season despite being really good. Same with Jordie Barrett. Like as much as he's looked phenomenal, he's still got a bit of work he can do. But man, his high ball work's been better than most. He's had the big goal kicking thing to do as well, because he's had not just the big kicks but the regular kicks to do as well. And just on attack, he's like proved a pretty good link-up man. He can score tries of his own. So yeah. Big Jordie Barrett. There you go. That's the team. If you want to have a try at home, remember you need 4 South Africans, 3 New Zealanders, 2 Aussies, Argentinians and Japanese, plus a Fijian and a Samoan. And you can't pick all forwards or all backs from those which have multiple picks. Give it a go. It's a bit of fun. I came up with a couple of combos before I found one that I was kind of happy with. Initially I made the mistake of picking 2 Argentinian forwards, and then that's how I ended up kind of having to rejig it because I wasn't following my own rules. But yeah, you guys let me know what you reckon. Do a Northern team as well at some point soon, and we'll compare them to see which one you guys reckon would have the better of the 2 teams. But anyway, you guys take care of yourselves. Enjoy the New Year's break, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.